Welcome back to episode 2 of Turnkey and Trimmings. I'm David Cook, the Chief Everything Officer at Contractors.Direct. Now, if you remember, in the first episode, we talked about the origins of Contractors.Direct, so where we started, how it began, and also the evolution. A large part of the evolution and the value that we add today is largely down to my guest on today's show, who is Halen Rodda. Halen, welcome to the show. How's it going?
Oh, thanks very much for having me in your little sanctuary here.
No problem. It's a pretty cool setup, right?
Yeah, this is quite impressive. It's the first time for me, so
awesome. Well, welcome. So for those people who don't know, Contractors Direct, obviously, we are a contractor search platform. Our speciality as a brand is making sure that homeowners, business owners, they connect direct to contractors that are pre-vetted and qualified and perfect for their project type. Now, a large part of the success of the delivery falls into the hands of project managers. Now, Halen and I think we've known each other, it's got to be about 10 years, right?
10 years, 2013.
I think I first met you with that gentleman, Charles, and I was at Harwell in DIP, up there looking at products and whatnot.
Building some pods at one stage.
Yes, yeah, that was it. And Charles was, hey, let me introduce you to our project manager, Halen. And I remember you walked into the room and I put my hand out and I was like, holy smokes. So you can't figure, or you can't see this, but Halen is huge. What are you, 6'5", 6'6"?
2 meters.
2 meters. Jeez Louise. Have you ever played basketball?
No, definitely not.
Okay. So going off on a bit of a tangent there. So Halen runs the Project People brand. And they are the dedicated project management team, essentially, that delivers the projects for Contractors.Direct. And Halen and I, we've known each other for a long time, and our paths have crossed multiple times over, I guess, the 10 years that we've known each other. But we actually got together in January 23?
Yeah, January 2023.
January 2023. And I was talking to you, asking, how's everything going with where you were? You were asking how is everything going with Contractors Direct? And we were just starting to get super busy. And I was telling you that, more and more clients are asking us for project management support. And we had very few options available at the time. And we were just kind of, spitballing some ideas and all the rest of it. And then you came up with the idea, well, hey, look, why don't we build a brand to support your clients, leave the responsibility down to me, i.e. you, and 3 years later or 2 years later, here we are. So if you don't mind, if you could just give us a little bit of your background, first of all, so, the people watching this understand your experience and who you are.
Sure. Thanks so much for having me. Just to go back to that coffee date that we had just over 2 years ago. That was one meeting where I left there and I thought, you know what, this is something, we're moving forward. And from the second we sort of discussed and just thought about the idea, I knew that this could happen, and it is happening. And I think what we've been able to accomplish in the last couple of years has really been amazing. It's definitely been a major highlight of my career so far. Just with regards to the opportunity to be able to, help clients with executing their construction projects that they've got, and being on the different side of the fence, supporting clients and architects, and making sure that overall project delivery is executed to the best possible way that can be done. To answer your question, I've been in construction since I left school. I did a couple of years in Libya, working at Homs Power Station, doing concrete repair work there. Came back to South Africa, so I'm from South Africa, Johannesburg in South Africa. Started my own call it subcontracting business, doing specialist wall coatings. That grew over a 10-year period into basically building residential homes from scratch for private clients. the markets hit a little bit of a dip. The company took a little bit of a beating in South Africa, and the timing was just right for me to hop on a plane and come visit my uncle here in the UAE, thinking that I'd be returning back to SA. And
Dubai does that.
yeah, and 12 years later, here we are. So
Yeah, nice.
The the work in the Middle East has been also super exciting. Worked for some massive construction companies and suppliers out there. Did a 2-year stint in Oman, in Muscat, working on a couple of hotels, which was a great learning experience for me, just due to the size and the nature of the jobs that we were on. It was super exciting to be involved in large scale projects. Then came back from Oman, back to the UAE, found a job in a sort of small boutique joinery factory, which was super interesting. That's actually one of my passions, I think, is joinery. I love joinery. I love the way that it comes together. I think joinery is one of the things that really takes a job from mediocre to spectacular.
Yeah.
Did that for 1 or 2 years, and then started working for one of, if not the biggest, interior fit-out companies here in the Middle East. We did the Address Hotel in Dubai Creek Harbour, which is definitely a flagship for me. Spent about 2 years on that job, from sort of start to finish. Didn't quite get to the end. I was exhausted.
20-hour days.
Yeah.
It's not sustainable.
But yeah, definitely tried my best with that one. And, since then, really been doing a lot of hotel high-rise, interior fit-out work, a lot of residential, full construction work from a PM point of view. And more recently, in the last 2 and a bit years, just loads and loads of commercial jobs.
Yeah.
Which I absolutely love doing.
Was that sarcasm?
No, I do, 100%. No, I love doing them.
I'm only kidding. I know you do.
Anything that doesn't have to do with sand and cement is always a bonus for me.
100%.
Gypsum carpets, LVT, and glass partitions all day long.
Yeah.
So it's really also the speed at which the jobs happen or whatever really keeps me going.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
So up until I suppose you formed Project People and brought the team on board, you were always the contractor side then?
Yeah, always on the contractor side.
So how does it feel to be the consultant on the client side that's now given the contractor's stick?
Well, it's good. I think it's nice that they know that I know their little tricks at the contractor.
Yeah,
side.
for sure. For sure.
So I think it's super important, well, certainly for me, that I've got the technical understanding and know-how on how a project is built from the ground up, rather than just the administrative know-how and document controlling side of things.
Yeah.
So it's a lot more exciting. It's a lot more rewarding. It comes with its own challenges, obviously, as everybody knows. But it's really nice to be able to come to work in semi-casual attire and not need to, take my overalls and my safety boots off every single day.
Yeah, you arrive clean and you go home clean.
Yeah.
Cleanish. So you just mentioned something there that I think is really important. You came from the contractor side, so you have a very, very good in-depth understanding from a technical aspect of how things are built. And what I've noticed about your team and how you hire, it's not just about the certification, do you know how to run a project? Do you know how to tick boxes? It's actually the majority, if not all of them, because I've obviously, I know the team and I've met the team, they're all from the contractor side. Was that a conscious decision? You wanted PMs on your team that understood how to execute a project as well as manage it?
Yeah, it is, because, a lot of the time I find it difficult to tell somebody or ask somebody to do something if I don't know how to do it myself.
Yeah.
I think it's important that from a project management point of view, when the project managers go on site and they walk around the site, that they're able to identify problems if they've already happened, prevent problems from happening, and at least have a general understanding on how things are put together. I think it's important that we put ourselves in a situation where we lead in by example and understand the difficulties that the contractors face. So having, coming from the contractor side, understand that they've got issues with labor, understand that they've got issues with budget, understand that they've got issues with procurement, understand that they've got issues with suppliers and subcontractors. And it's what do we do together as a team with the contractor to sit and discuss the problems that they are facing in the best way to resolve them. I think walking on sites and just pulling out the program and the dashboard and finding fault or trying to fix something without truly understanding the problem is not the most practical way forward. It's really about understanding the ins and outs of what's happening on the job and what challenges the contractors face.
100%. I think one thing that I admire about how you approach projects and potential challenges with projects, and I think this comes from you being on the contractor side before, is the level of empathy that you have for the contractor's situation. So if something has gone wrong and it was maybe unforeseen or it was a genuine mistake on the contractor's part, your level-headedness and ability to just get the right people around the table and just say, right, guys, this is where we are, this is where we should be, these are the challenges, and these are the potential solutions. Let's now have a discussion about which one we go with. I've never seen that approach before. Do you think that is because you've come from the contractor side and you understand that, poop happens? I was almost dropped an S-bomb there, but poop happens and it's about getting the problem solved rather than, shouting at people and having them come up with their own solutions?
Yeah, I think if you try and go for absolute perfection all the time, you're always going to fail. So that's, everybody expects it to be done perfectly the first time. And that's just a really unrealistic approach, in my opinion. I mean, we are dealing with, people at the end of the day, and people make mistakes. And it's just how we approach the mistakes and understand why the mistake happened. Was it because they didn't have the right tools, or we will ask them something that couldn't be done? I think before pointing fingers at anybody, you got to understand the reasons why that situation or problem happened, and then come up with 2-3 solutions on best way to fix the problem, and then agree, get the contractors buy-in on. So rather than dictate, look, do it this way, say, look, these are the 3 best ways to fix it. Which one suits you best and why? And have a discussion about it, and make sure that, at the end of a meeting or a problem, that everybody's happy and agree and align on this solution or the way forward.
Yeah. Okay, good. And one of the things that our team is certainly impressed with, and I know the clients are impressed with, is the ability to actually deliver on time. Now, obviously, a large proportion of the responsibility of delivery falls within the contractors, but surely a large portion of that is down to how the project is being effectively managed. And in 90% of instances, so 9 out of every 10 projects, the project people does for Contractors Direct clients finish on time or just before, which is incredible. I mean, I don't know the stats for other, PMCs and whatnot, but that is an incredible stat. In your opinion, what are the top 3 things that you think are the main components that you and your team control to be able to ensure that timely delivery?
I think the number one thing for me is not receiving a program or forcing the contractor into a program where we know that they're going to fail.
Yeah.
So the programs need to be realistic. They need to be fair. Everybody understands, that there's a lot of pressure to complete things as quick as possible. And, one of the biggest challenges that we did face, especially from the contractor side, is that the, business development and the sales guys, they were always super keen to sign up a deal and get a job.
Yeah.
And then they would put the, the project managers and the whole supply chain under, unrealistic pressure. So I think part of the success of that is managing expectations from the beginning.
Yeah.
If it is a 6-month job, it's a 6-month job. It should definitely not go to 7, because we've had all the tools and everything we need to do it in 6. And if it happens in 5.5 months, then kudos to the rest of the team. So point number 1 is, setting expectations right from the beginning and making sure the contractors have got achievable goals. The second thing is preparation, which is equally as important. I suppose a key phrase that's always floating around is design and build.
Yeah.
But a lot of contractors, companies, clients, they almost build and design while they're going. So they do, things sometimes happen the other way around due to time constraints, or rent-free periods coming to end very quickly, or lack of decision making. So spending nearly as much time designing and preparing and getting all the materials approved and the drawing signed off and the authority approvals done, and getting into the details of the BOQ so that there's no scope gaps and variations, so that when the job actually starts and we break ground, everybody knows what they're building before we actually start building, at least as much as possible. There'll always be 10-15% floating around where it's, we can make a decision on the color of loose rug carpets at a later stage, but just getting the bones of the job absolutely ironed out before definitely is a major contributor. And the third thing is, getting a clear scope from the client what they want. So I suppose it goes back to the preparation. Trying to avoid as many changes as possible. Changes happen, and most of the time a change happens, it's actually for the benefit of the job, and makes the job overall much better at the end of it. But as long as it's not a fundamental change, it's going to affect and have a knock-on effect throughout the overall construction process. Limiting changes as much as possible.
Okay. So just to recap, number 1, realistic program. Number 2 was preparation. And number 3?
Limiting changes and variations.
Limited changes and variations. Okay.
As much as possible.
Okay, good. So you and your team came up with a very bold statement, almost a guarantee, if you like. It was about 12 months ago. So the guarantee basically is that you guarantee, obviously if you're brought in early enough, you guarantee, or project people, guarantees the clients that they will save the client more money than what they actually cost them in professional fees. Now that's a bold claim. I've never seen that in any other country, let alone the UAE. Can you just talk us through what actually is that guarantee, and how do you safeguard yourself from not being caught short?
Look, it's for us, it's been pretty easy to do, to be honest with you.
Because it's all at the front end, right? It's in the tender management, the value engineering.
It's all in the front end. So, quite easily we can save the client more money than we cost them in the first week of being on the job. One, just by, simple things, spotting duplicates in a BOQ, or spotting things that are overpriced, or going to other suppliers for certain things, saving them money. Stopping mistakes before they happen. That's a big one. Value engineering is another. There's a lot of wonderful new products out there and technologies that save both time and money. So it's not just always squeezing the supply chain down or trying to get the best price from the contractor. It's making sure that the contractor has priced the materials and solutions that are fit for purpose for the job. It's, you know, helping with the whole authority approval process and saving on the rent-free period. Some companies are paying 100,000 dirhams a month. And just and more, and more, just as a start. So being able to shorten the pre-construction time and shorten the overall construction program. I mean, if we can save a month, then there's 100K right there without even really doing too much. So it's something that we're very proud of, and we've been able to do 98% of the time.
Nice.
Is take on a job and very early on in the job, save the client money before we've even put the first screw in the ground.
Yeah. And would you say that having the client engage with project people early, so even whilst they're just in the ideation of shall we move office, getting in that early is important to a successful project?
Definitely. I think the earlier the better. Even if it's just a little bit of light touching and being involved in a couple of the early emails just to get a bit of a feel and tempo for, the different stakeholders involved or that would be involved in the job. I think understanding the requirements early on and getting visibility to, potential offices or properties that clients have bought that they're looking to renovate or move into or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
And also just providing that constructive feedback, getting to know the client, their likes, their dislikes, and then looking at a particular property and say, well, this is not going to work for you because we can't take it from a 3-bed to a 4-bed. These are the reasons why. Or, you can't have 6 meeting rooms in this particular property because there's nowhere to, we can't finish off against the glass mullions, or just little bits of advice to make sure that we give in the clients the best job that we can give to them.
Yeah.
We're also giving the contractor the fairest chance to be able to build and deliver what the client ultimately envisages and wants.
Nice.
So the earlier the better is.
Yeah. Okay. And the guarantee, I'm assuming if a client brings you in, I know we've had a couple of calls and we've sent the clients over to you that were what we call rescue jobs. So they went with the cheapest contractor. They said they'd deliver in 4 months and it was only 2 million. It's an 8-month project and it should have been 3. Contractor disappears off site. They then bring you guys in. I suppose 2 questions. Number 1, I guess you probably wouldn't be able to offer the guarantee in that particular instance, right?
No, definitely not.
But then, because you need them to spend more, actually. Yeah.
Then, when a client brings in a project manager halfway through the job, there's always a reason for that.
Yeah.
It could be, that the contractor's walked off site and they're looking for somebody to take over. It could be that the quality of the work is not up to scratch. It could be that it's delayed normally by months, which is a big one. Or it could just be that the client's overpaid and the contractor has sort of lost interest on the job and really doesn't have money or the willingness to complete the job. So normally in that sort of situation, whether it's the termination of a contractor or the contractor walking off site, it's not easy to find contractors out there that are actually willing to take on finishing somebody else's job.
Yeah, it's true.
And even the contractors that do it normally comes with a pretty serious premium.
Yeah. Well, a lot of the time they actually have to strip it back to, the shell and core state, right? Because the workmanship for the work that maybe has been completed up to that point isn't up to their standard, and they don't want to essentially be called back in 6 months saying, hey, my water heater has just leaked right through the new flat ceiling, for example.
Yeah, a lot of the time, especially, with the MEP works, the high level MEP works, it's a very easy way to take shortcuts.
Mm.
And, if the MEP is not working properly, it really just destroys
The whole house of the office isn't working
Yeah.
properly. Yeah.
So
Good point.
MEP's it's a dark art,
Yeah.
and there's lots of ways to, I suppose,
Cut corners.
cut corners.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's one thing that that I've noticed on a couple of the rescue projects is when you have a look at the MEP scope and the MEP price, and then what was actually done from an MEP perspective, you can see that because there wasn't the right questions asked at the front end and the detail wasn't there, particularly in the proposals and BOQs, technically what they installed wasn't incorrect. It just wasn't fit for purpose. It's exactly what the client paid for, but the client didn't realize that what they were paying for was an incomplete solution for what they needed. So yes, it is a dark art.
Yeah. Tricky.
I did want to ask, actually, I've obviously, we work incredibly close together. There seems to be, new people joining the team, what feels like every couple of weeks. When we started working together way back when, it was predominantly to service the commercial clients. And then, with everything that happened with Russia and Ukraine, we then started doing residential, and you brought in someone specifically for residential, and then someone else specifically for residential. Then there was high rise, then there was hotels. What type of projects are you guys now doing? Because originally it was only commercial offices and villas, but now it seems like you guys have, upskilled and brought in the resource to be able to do almost anything, I guess, right?
Yeah, we've been very fortunate. I think just through the team that we've built over the last couple of years, a lot of the sort of reoccurring clients are using us for different things. So we working with quite a few government entities at the moment, in both Abu Dhabi and Dubai, doing jobs from landscaping to sports facilities, redoing tennis courts if need be. Anything that sort of comes our way where the client needs assistance on, we're 100% there to help. We're currently busy with a couple of high-rise hotels, a couple of villas, as everybody knows, quite a few commercial properties.
Yeah.
Sometimes you lose a little bit of track, but because they turn around so quickly. So we've really expanded into all parts of the construction industry: industrial, commercial, retail, residential, landscaping.
Was that always the plan, or did it just kind of evolve that way?
It was not part of the plan, but the demand is there.
Yeah, for
So it's supply and demand. People are asking, well, can you do this? Can you do this? And after you get asked the same question for the third time by 3 different people,
we should do something about this.
I think we should be doing this.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, you start 1 or 2 of these jobs, and it becomes a full-time role for 1 or 2 years. There's phase 1 and phase 2, and so it's just never ending. So that's been a serious eye opener.
Yeah.
There's been a lot to learn on a couple of the jobs, but I think, having a good team, they've been able to put it together, and the willingness to learn and take on new challenges has been fundamental.
Good. And it seems that, I might be wrong, but I'm assuming because you now have incredibly, skilled people that have a great track record of a particular industry sector, there's probably quite a lot of, communication within the office. So if this guy is struggling with X, he'll call that guy because he knows that he has experience. And, is that internal communication there?
Definitely. On a daily basis, there's a lot of sort of transferable skills within the team.
Yeah.
So the team are constantly talking and catching up and doing workshops with one another. discussing the challenges that they faced, during the week, and how did they solve it, and what would you do to prevent it, which is a big one. I mean, to answer that question, there's yes.
The obviously the interaction that I have, I never let go of. It's a blessing and a curse. I never let go of the clients that I'm dealing with, and the clients are always very, very positive and pro project people, but more importantly, the project manager that's on the job. I do have a question that is for Halen. So you're like the quintessential Swiss Army knife. When you have a look at what you've done in your career to date, from the high rises, the villa communities, the sandpit up to finished buildings, hotels, etc. You're the linchpin. What amazes me is I can call you at any time and I can say, hey, by the way, what's happening with this client? You know the answer. You're not managing that project. I could ask you, what is the update with these 12 live clients, and you know the update. Number one, how do you do that and stay sane? Number two, do you sleep? And I think they're genuine questions.
I think proper internal communication and just keeping a bird's eye view on all of that is super important. I don't let it take up the majority of my day. I would rather just be on site. So I do try and attend every single weekly meeting if I can on all the jobs. Sometimes it's every second week, depending on the timing and when they overlap. We've got our weekly meetings set out in such a way where, let's say, for example, on a Monday it's Sharjah, Tuesday they're downtown, Wednesday it's Marina, JVT, JVC type of thing. Thursday Abu Dhabi, and nobody likes a meeting on a Friday, so I'll try and avoid that.
Well, they do, just not in an office, in a more social environment.
So I try to spread them, 2.5 hours apart on each job throughout the course of a day.
Yeah.
And then when you're on the job and you're spending that much time there once a week, and you're going through the bits and pieces, the challenges and the program, and having to walk around site and sorting out any technical issues, you've sort of got it in your mind until the next week. So it's very easy to be able to just drop a text message or a WhatsApp message or an email to follow up on something during the course of the week without needing to get too heavily involved. And the second thing is the guys on the ground, they already know what they're doing.
Yeah.
So the issues and the problems that we face over the last year have just become less and less and less, and they're becoming less and less technically reliant on my time.
Yeah.
Because the team that we've gotten built really sort of understand it. They know the way that I work. I understand the way that they work. They've got the flexibility and autonomy to make any decision and to do anything that they need to do that they think is right. If it lands up being the wrong decision or it lands up being a problem, we'll solve it, we'll work it out together.
Yeah.
So I think spending time on site, engaging with the contractors, engaging with the clients, and just making sure that everybody's expectations are managed and everybody's on the same page at least once a week.
Yeah.
Gives you that breathing space to be able to, look down and not up.
Yeah, for sure. So just before we jumped on, we had a quick chat about the projects that you're working on at the moment. And I was astounded actually at the number of projects that are live. So there was 22, some are just finishing, some are just starting, but 22 is the number. That seems like a huge number, especially compared to 12 months ago. So in the last 12 months, you've more than doubled your team. I'm assuming you will have more than doubled your revenue as a reflection of that. You've got 22 live projects. If we have another podcast in 12 months' time, what can we expect from where you are today to, the end of Q1 in 2026? What does Project People look like in 12 months' time? Or have you not thought about that? You're just like, do you know what? I'm too busy. But you're supposed, yeah.
Look, I think we're gonna take things as they come, take things in its own stride, let things happen organically the way that it has been happening.
Yeah.
Um, there's I think part of the reason why we've grown so much is it's our office and everything's just a good place to work.
Yeah.
The staff are happy, and I think that reflects, and that the team is happy. That reflects in the work that they do and what they execute. So I'm a firm believer in what you put in, you get out. I do think, and I do see that there's going to be there is a huge demand currently for, project management for smaller jobs, or at least call it site supervision or project coordination. If maybe that's a better word or a better phrase, for you know CEOs of companies, or people that are just really busy in their careers, maybe going on a summer holiday and they're redoing their bathrooms and their kitchen, just for example, or people are just at work and they need somebody to pop in once or twice a day just to make sure that what the contractor's doing in their bathroom or in their garden or whatever the case, whatever it is project that they're looking at.
Yeah.
Um, so a lot of small little bits and pieces floating around where we're really solving a major problem for the client, whether it's answering a telephone call or just sending an email or following up on a delivery. So I think that's a lovely little niche that we're looking forward to exploring a bit further.
Yeah.
The demand is there, and that's been proven. And just taking on, a variety of jobs. So not sticking into just the commercial space.
Yeah.
Really getting out there and doing more landscaping jobs and more sports facilities and more doggy daycares and more bakeries, and working with small to medium sized startups.
Yeah.
Is always pretty exciting.
And they probably need the help the most.
Yeah, you're going, you're going through that whole journey with them.
Yeah.
It's the first time, they invest in, not their life savings, but a lot of people are investing a lot of money that they've saved up to get a business up and running, and just being part of that whole journey with them is,
yeah, that's cool.
Is exciting.
That is cool. So you mentioned that one of the goals is to have, I suppose, more of a coordination service for the lesser value projects, which is super cool, by the way. And in fact, that's one of the things that spurred us, in that initial conversation, was we could provide a world-class project management service, but a lot more keenly priced, if that makes sense. And that's kind of like how the whole thing started was, I've got clients that really need and want project management, but they can't afford or they prefer not to pay the 40, 50, 60, 70,000 dirhams a month just for a 5,000 square foot commercial office. And I think when we, had the initial discussions and then you built out Project People, you filled that niche wonderfully and were consistently, kind of 20 to 30% more cost effective. And I think that's largely down to the success. So you're now looking at potentially a more coordination approach, slightly less intensity, I'm assuming, slightly less hours. Do you think that the introduction of technology might help out? Like, for example, what do you use as a project management app? I know you guys were trying something.
Currently, we're using Builder Trend.
Okay, cool. How's that working out?
Yeah, Builder Trend has added a hell of a lot of value and transparency to the clients and to ourselves. So it's a lot easier to pull up reports and really understand in a click of a button what's going on in all the particular jobs.
Yeah.
So that's been a huge help. The clients have got access to it. So instead of sending a WhatsApp message or an email to follow up on something, they've got a username and password. They can log on and they can get their weekly updates and understand where they stand.
Cool.
We've also put cameras on sites. So we've got cameras on a couple of the sites where we're high up on a pole that nobody can get to it, where we're able to sit in the office and make sure and see what's going on site to the best of our ability.
Yeah.
But if somebody says if a delivery is coming, making sure we've been able to at least check, okay, the delivery's there, whatever. So that's been a huge help. It saves a lot of traveling up and down.
Do you think, I mean, project management is still relatively, excuse the phrase, archaic and manual. Do you think this is one of those trades that AI cannot take over? Because someone has to physically be there, someone has to physically coordinate these conversations and know the history of a project and how it's built?
I don't think AI will take over. I think we need to embrace AI. AI is going to allow us to do more with less resource. So if AI is used correctly, a PM will be able to do a lot more or respond a lot quicker or get to a better solution or at least come up with multiple solutions for discussion. So I don't think it's going to ever replace. I think it's more a tool that we need to use to help us to make things more efficient, because it does work. And there's multiple apps out there that we're currently using and trying and testing, and it just seems to work really well when used correctly.
So it's more AI would be a tool that would be embraced to improve efficiency, but it wouldn't actually replace the physical human that has to go to site and...
Yeah, I don't think that AI can maybe flag problems and let you know that something's happening and provide solutions. But in the end, nobody's going to listen to AI.
Yeah, yeah, it's true.
If AI tells you to clean the site, you're probably not going to listen to it.
Yeah, good point.
So there's certain things that still require a little bit of
humans.
Yeah, a little bit of conversing.
Yikes. Because I know that the design industry and the architecture industry, certainly over the last, I would say, 12 to 18 months in particular, there's been a huge shift. And, the AI tools now, as long as the prompt is strong enough. I think one of them, a designer was showing me Mid-Journey. I haven't used it myself, but if you put in the prompt, sometimes the prompt is like, 1,000 words, but then when you click generate, it generates an image. And that's, often good enough. It's high resolution to add it to a concept deck or, set of 3Ds and send it off to the client. I can't see that level of detail or dependence, should I say, on AI for design. I just can't see that coming over to the project management side. So I think you're right. I haven't really thought about it until I asked the question, but what you see with your own eyes and knowing how that should have been done first time round, AI can't really pick that up.
Yeah, a lot of the time we're working with our eyes.
Yeah, 100%.
So that's, you're working with your eyes, you're walking around the site, you're spotting things, so those sort of things can't be solved by a computer.
Yeah, agreed.
The one thing that I also just wanted to discuss when we were talking about the smaller jobs is that, and just to go back a little bit, and Abu, you can edit this any way you want.
I don't think we will, but fire away. Just don't drop any off the F-bombs and we'll be fine.
I think part of the success of Project People is we don't punish the customers because they're spending a lot of money on their job.
Yeah.
So our rates and the way that our commercial proposals go out is it's not based on the overall spend of what the customer's spending. Just because he's spending 10 million doesn't mean that we need to take a percentage of that for consultancy fees. Ours is really based on time versus money and resource allocation.
Yeah.
And so how much of our time do you want? Do you need somebody full-time, or do you just need somebody, 2 hours a day to take a walk around site? Or do you need somebody full-time plus a QA/QC plus a document controller? Okay, no problem. This is the hourly, daily, monthly rate for the guys. So that's also been a huge tick in the box for us, because clients they've got the money, they're spending money, and we are providing an affordable solution in terms of project management for them that half the time it's just a no-brainer.
Yeah.
and then by saving them more money than we actually cost them at the end of the day.
That's unreal.
Yeah.
That is unreal. That genuinely makes it a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Because if you could demonstrate to the client that actually, look, I have saved you all this money, then they get project management professional support for almost free.
Sometimes sometimes we do it in the first week, and that sort of feels like, okay, well, we've done our job here now.
Yeah, you just terminate the contract, and
sometimes we stall it a little bit before letting them know.
Yeah, fair enough. I'd probably do the same. So we're coming close to the end of the second episode. I've had an absolute blast. I know this wasn't something that you were particularly looking forward to.
Definitely out of my comfort zone.
And I'm sure that you are so busy. So I really appreciate you taking the time out. And also on behalf of me and the team, I just want to thank you and your team for doing an absolutely superb job, or lekker job, as the South Africans would say. And you've genuinely made our life easier. For sure, because you've now given us a service that we can offer. We can be confident in what you're doing. The clients can be confident in what you're doing as well. And yeah, I just want to say thank you. Keep fighting the good fight.
Thank you for all the, guidance and support and everything throughout the last couple of years. And unfortunately, we stuck with each other.
Yeah, it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing.
We stuck with each other. I'm not going anywhere, and neither are you two. So that's
absolutely not.
That's the exciting bit, and the bit that I look forward to the most is, I suppose, turnkey and trimmings, 5.0 in a year's time. I think we'll be having a very different conversation.
Love it. Looking forward to it. Super.
Awesome.
Thank you very much once again.
Thank you.
Okay, guys, so that is the end of episode number 2, Turnkey and Trimmings with Halen Rodda. Halen, thank you very much once again. And please stay tuned. If you've got any questions, post them wherever you're watching this video, or simply just get in touch. Go to Contractors.Direct or projectpeople.ae if you've got any questions about project management. Thank you very much, guys. See you next time.
Thank you.